Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we are going on a seriously fascinating journey to uncover the real truth about wolf packs. We're going to completely deconstruct one of the most pervasive ideas in modern biology and pop culture, honestly, and refocus our understanding on what nature actually intended all along: the true family unit structure. Now, it's a concept that is absolutely everywhere. I mean, think about it. Our culture is totally obsessed with the idea of the alpha, right? We see it in business books, dating advice, leadership seminars, and especially in those dominance-based dog training methods. We just love to use the wolf as this ultimate metaphor for power, toughness, and ruling by force. But you gotta wonder, is this alpha hierarchy actually based on real science? Or have we just been projecting our own human fantasies onto one of nature's most misunderstood predators? Okay, let's dive into this. The shocking truth here is that the very scientist who popularized the alpha wolf concept has actually spent decades trying to take it back. Dr. L. David Meck, who is a senior scientist and a leading wolf biologist, published a massively influential book back in 1970 called The Wolf. It sold over 110,000 copies and literally cemented the term alpha into the public imagination. But here's the catch. Dr. Meck now openly admits that what science knew back then was just incomplete. He flat out states, "I'm very much to blame for the term alpha being used with wolves. Science has learned an awful lot." So here is how we'll break this all down today. First, the alpha wolf myth. Second, captivity versus the wild. Third, the true family unit. Fourth, dispersal and lone wolves. Fifth, the mind-altering parasite. And finally, number 6, redefining true leadership. All right, section 1, the alpha wolf myth. Where did this whole thing actually come from? Well, the whole idea goes all the way back to 1947. An animal behaviorist named Rudolf Schenkel published a groundbreaking paper based on his observations of wolves at Zoo Basel in Switzerland. Schenkel identified a lead wolf and a female bitch that he claimed were first in the pack group. He noted what he genuinely believed were violent rivalries and this constant, rigid repression of competition. And that's exactly what formed the violent foundation of the alpha theory, this incredibly flawed idea that wolves are just constantly battling each other to become the top dog. Moving right along to section 2, captivity versus the wild. Basically, a massive scientific error. You see, Schenkel was observing an entirely artificial assortment of unrelated wolves that had been forced together in a captive environment. And under those highly stressful conditions, the unrelated wolves developed a rigid, gender-based dominance hierarchy just to regulate access to food and space. But out in nature, the wolf pack is definitely not a random assemblage of strangers. Dr. Meck brilliantly points out that trying to draw inferences about wild wolf packs by studying captive, unrelated wolves is kind of like trying to understand human family dynamics by studying humans in a refugee camp or a prison. It just doesn't work.
Now, looking at the actual data, in 1999, Dr. Misch published a biological review titled Alpha Status, Dominance, and Division of Labor in Wolf Packs. This was based on 13 summers of observing free-living wolves in their natural habitat on Ellesmere Island in the Canadian Arctic, and this paper officially course-corrected wolf biology for good. It proved definitively that wild packs absolutely do not function like those captive assemblages. Out in the wild, there are literally no violent power struggles to achieve or maintain rank.
Which brings us to section 3, the true family unit. This is how wild packs actually work. So, the basic unit of wild wolf society is actually just the nuclear family. A typical pack consists of a monogamous breeding pair, the parents, along with their multi-generational offspring. You've got the tiny pups of the year, and you have older offspring from previous years, like yearlings who stick around. And honestly, it is incredibly warm and cooperative. The older siblings act as helpers. They babysit, they play with the pups, they serve as escorts. The parents just gently guide the activities of the group, naturally dividing the labor without any need for violent combat whatsoever. So the absolutely crucial point is this: the wolves we've been calling alphas are literally just the mother and the father. That's it. Their leadership isn't maintained by physical coercion at all. It's maintained by natural parental guidance. Younger wolves submit to their parents instinctively, exactly like human children or the offspring of other social mammals. Dr. Meek argues that calling a wolf an alpha is as silly and redundant as calling a human parent or a doe deer an alpha. Any parent is naturally dominant to its young offspring, right? So the term alpha adds absolutely zero biological information. Let's look at section 4 now, dispersal and lone wolves. It's really just a temporary phase. We've all heard of the lone wolf, right? Well, a lone wolf is not some solitary, independent rebel who just chooses to reject society. In biological terms, it's simply a young adult going through a phase called dispersal. When subadult wolves reach about 1.5 to 2 years of age, they leave their natal territory. Why? Well, wild packs maintain a strict reproductive monopoly for the parents. So, to prevent inbreeding and find a mate of their own, these young wolves must venture out. It is a highly dangerous temporary life phase for sure, but it's a complete evolutionary necessity to ensure genetic diversity and start brand new family units.
This leads us to Section 5, the mind-altering parasite. Yep, you heard that right, Toxoplasma gondii.
Now, this is where the story takes a massive, totally sci-fi-esque biological twist. Recent research in Yellowstone National Park has revealed that a single-celled parasite called Toxoplasma gondii plays a huge role in wolf social dynamics. This is a parasite typically found in cats, including wild cougars. When warm-blooded animals ingest it, the parasite actually manipulates its new host's behavior from the inside out. It tweaks certain hormones, effectively making a host bolder and way more prone to risk-taking. And the numbers on this are just absolutely staggering. Researchers analyzed 26 years of blood samples and behavioral data from Yellowstone wolves, and what they discovered is that wolves infected with this parasite are 11 times more likely to disperse from their family unit than uninfected wolves, 11 times. And this brilliantly illustrates just how wild nature can be, because they take more risks. Infected wolves are a mind-blowing 46 times more likely to eventually become pack leaders. They strike out on their own, find a mate, and establish a completely new family unit. So this creates a fascinating and, honestly, somewhat dangerous biological feedback loop. First, wolves overlap with dense populations of cougars. Second, they get infected with the parasite through the environment. Third, the parasite literally alters their brain chemistry, making them bolder and much more likely to become leaders. And finally, these newly bold leaders are more likely to guide their own new packs right back into riskier cougar territories. This exposes their family members to the parasite, and the whole crazy cycle starts all over again. All right, our final section, number 6, redefining true leadership. How do we apply this truth?
The reality of the true family unit structure really challenges us to update our metaphors, doesn't it? First off, we need to completely ditch the alpha excuse. We just can't keep using debunked wolf science to justify toxic, aggressive leadership in humans. Second, we have to recognize that nature's top predators actually succeed through intense cooperation, communication, and strong family bonds, not constant status warfare. And finally, we urgently need to rethink dominance-based dog training. Forcing dogs to submit because you think you need to be the alpha is based on outdated captive wolf studies. It honestly creates nothing but unnecessary conflict between us and our pets.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We've spent decades romanticizing the aggressive, dominating alpha wolf. We've been projecting our own societal obsessions onto an animal that actually just wants to raise its kids and hunt with its family. If one of nature's most effective, highly social predators relies on cooperation and familial care rather than violent hierarchy to survive, if wolves don't need alphas to thrive, why do we?